Well, welcome to our talk studio. It's time for the Kibaki succession. Great to have you with us, David Makali, Peter Opondo, another week. And of course, this is the final week this year of the Kibaki succession as we take a break for Christmas. And we can see all the activity happening this week. David, let's just analyze from your perspective, what are the expected outcomes this week, particularly with respect to, of course, the big alliances?
I think unless anything changes, we expect that by the close of Tuesday, the Jubilee Alliance will have named Musalia Mudavadi, to be precise, as the ticket of the Jubilee Alliance.
And you say Musalia is expected because? What are the indications
because,
that...
I mean, all the indications are long. We don't want to revisit history. It's out there that, you know, Musalia's way to this ticket is a favored route, so to speak. And by the time he was invited into the alliance, when the Uhuru and Ruto went to pick him, they had a very clear offer, and that offer has not changed. And let's not dupe the public. I mean, what we are saying here is just the motions of assuaging the public, of managing the public expectations on the side of the URP and TNA supporters. But it's going to culminate in a Musalia ticket. That's I have no doubt in my mind about it.
From the way you express this, it's like you're making a judgment call on whether this is good or bad. I mean, is this good or bad? It's up to the alliance, right, to decide
yes,
who it wants.
That's true. I mean,
right.
Obviously, it's up to the alliance to decide who they end up with in the nomination process. But I think that there has to be some sense of public accountability in the way politics is managed in this country. I mean, if I'm a supporter of William Ruto, for example, and all along I've been led to believe that, I'm supporting because he's going to be the presidential candidate. There has to be a way in which the public needs to be brought on board, some honesty in dealing with the supporters. That's what that's what I think is wrong with our politics, because we are perpetuating politics of dishonesty. When deals are hammered, the public is kept in the dark, and then they are unleashed as if anything has changed.
Okay.
That's not right. Honest politics or leadership.
Also a big week for CORD. Same thing applies to CORD?
The same thing. I think, as they've said, they'll have their rally, I think, on Saturday, which will be really the culmination of what has gone on. If you look at the CORD, they don't want to say that they have already agreed on the lineup, but clearly the ball is out there. Who Raila is going to be the ticket carrier, and
no chance you're saying that Kalonzo could be
his running mate. I mean, the stakes were clear by the time they came together to draft the agreement. They had already squared out the spoils, but I think it's the formal announcement that is awaited. And so let's just give them the privilege of announcing to us. But there's no news to expect.
Okay. Peter.
First of all, we have to understand why there seems to be some tugging and pulling within the Jubilee coalition at this particular moment. The fact is, when these leaders met on the 4th of December, and got a deal to bring in Musalia Mudavadi, it was agreed that they said they would agree among who will be the presidential candidate between Musalia Mudavadi and Uhuru Kenyatta. The word was agree. They will agree. There was no nominations. But thereafter, there was a push, especially from the TNA side. There was some sort of a backlash, and that backlash had to be managed. So I think the TNA team decided to push for a nomination of sorts so that delegates go and elect one of either of the two candidates, or rather the two aspirants, so that one of them becomes the presidential candidate.
And it's delegates of all three alliance
but
members.
Now there's a problem because the UDF team is so much opposed to that delegates going there to elect, so to speak, a presidential candidate, because it can go either way. You would find maybe when they go to that delegates congress, Uhuru Kenyatta defeats Musalia Mudavadi, and that's not what they had agreed in that board.
So you don't agree with David that it's all decided. You're saying it could still be up in the air.
It could still be up in the air, but it's true that the original deal was for Musalia Mudavadi to become the presidential candidate of Jubilee. But of course now Uhuru Kenyatta has to manage expectations in his area and also to try to make his people understand why he's taken that particular decision.
Before I come back to you, David, I can see you want to jump in. And what are you expecting to see at CORD this week?
Again, we expect Raila Odinga to be unveiled as the presidential candidate and Kalonzo Musyoka as the running mate. Now, of course, they denied one of our stories that we ran last week, saying that it was almost a done deal. But you can see even from the demeanor of Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka that he's more or less has suspended his campaign as a presidential candidate. He rarely addresses, I think since December 4th, he has not addressed a single public rally outside there, the way Raila has been doing. He's been going to churches, he's been meeting people in functions in hotels, but not public rallies. That tells you something. This is a person who's already decided, I'm going to be running next.
But very interesting, he's delivered some phenomenal speeches over the past couple of weeks.
He says, they called me Musaliti, and I have forgiven them. I have embraced them.
Powerful.
Yeah. So you can almost tell from that what he's trying to say.
My thinking is that I think it's essential that the Jubilee carries out a nomination exercise. I think if they're going to sit and agree in a boardroom, it is not going to be good for the momentum, because it's recalled that when Musalia left ODM, he said he wanted a contest.
That was his issue.
Yes,
that was his issue.
So it will help him if there is actually an appearance of a contest. However, stage managed it is for them going forward, that it's actually done properly and democratically. Two, and of course there are questions being raised about whether in fact the Political Parties Act allows joint party nominations. So I don't know how they're dealing with that, because again, is there a provision that 2 parties or 3 parties coming together can actually hold a joint?
Or perhaps it's an internal mechanism for decision rather than...
parties, perhaps the party constitutions allow it, but is it allowed by the bigger law? So that is something they have to deal with. But I expect that there has to be nomination.
David and Peter, let's step away from what we're calling the big 2 right now for a moment and just look at the other players and the lone rangers, so to speak, who've said, look, we're not going into any alliance, we're going to do this on our own, and we've got Martha Karua and Ole Kiapi there. Let's look at the other alliances that seem to have formed and their impact, do we think, on politics in Kenya so far at the end of this very interesting year. Let me start with you, Peter.
The only other alliance is the Pambazuka Alliance, and of course the Tuju and the Peter Kenneth one. The Peter Kenneth and Tuju, they have not been campaigning over the past 1 week. I think Peter Kenneth was out of the country. Pambazuka, it is very interesting. They've decided to make Western their focus, and it seems to me they're just waiting for Musalia Mudavadi to be given the presidential ticket, and then they say now Pambazuka is supporting Jubilee. Now, the only thing is, if it doesn't happen, then you will see now this Pambazuka, Jirongo and Eugene Wamolo now, trying to split the Western vote. I don't know whether they will succeed, but that's what they're trying to do. But they will not have no impact outside Western Kenya.
I think I find the Pambazuka orientation and their own strategy very, it harkens to the same ethnic politics we've been talking about. Why is it that they're waiting for Musalia to be given the ticket, for them to go there? I thought they want to join the Jubilee because they belong to that alliance. So I'm surprised they're even letting it out themselves, that once Musalia is given the ticket, then we'll troop there. Really strange. Okay,
gentlemen, we've got to wind up now. I mean, it's been a very interesting year. We always said that it looked like a crowded race to State House. It's less and less crowded as the weeks go by. Of course, next year, January 4th to 18th is critical. It's a nomination period. What are your expectations, very briefly, as we head into January?
I expect a very strong contest, a 2-horse race. Actually, we didn't say it was crowded. We always knew it would end up being a 2-horse race. There would be 2 strong forces that would emerge at some point, and that is what is emerging now. Whoever is nominated as a presidential candidate between Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, the other side, Uhuru Kenyatta and Musalia Mudavadi, those will be the people to watch, because one of the 2 teams will form the next government.
Okay, very quickly, David,
some
please.
Some of the alliances staying out of the 2 major forces, I mean the Tuju, Kenneth alliance and the Pambazuka one, I see prospects of the 2 of them joining one of the 2 coalitions going into January, because it's all looking too futile to just run a race for it if the 2 coalitions already are too strong. So I see it even narrowing down more, but and I think that perhaps Martha Karua may have to reconsider her stance when the new year opens.
Martha Karua will never. She's in the rest of the year. As Mutanguni said the other day, people start a race for different reasons. Some start to win, some start to finish, and some just run for fun. So I think some of these candidates are there not to win. They just want to finish the race.
She's a woman of principle. If she's running it alone, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. We'll see how she does. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Of course, we'll be back with much more next year. And we're asking you the all-important question: have you registered as a voter yet? If so, what's your experience been? If not, why not? 2442 is the SMS number. Share your thoughts with